For the past 3 years, we've been seeing a Sony live service hungry monopoly trying to give us games that the fans and players were not asking for. And on top of that, the PS5 hasn't really seen like serious exclusives just for the PlayStation. I mean, apart from Ghost of Yotei, which we just got a couple months ago, Marvel Spider-Man 2, thanks to Insomniac for the PlayStation 5 era. Do you know what I mean? So if it wasn't for Insomniac, PlayStation would be in a really bad situation. So what am I getting at here, right? So there's been news that's been let out by NateTheHate. I know a lot of you know who NateTheHate is. He's an insider, very reputable. You know, this guy single-handedly carried us through the Spider-Man 2 era, you know, Spider-Man 2 leaks and etc. Though some of them were wrong, but he is credible nonetheless, right? So he's come out to say that yes, the next game from Santa Monica, with the team being led by Cory Barlog, who was the director of the 2018 God of War game. They said that the next game will be set within the God of War universe and the lead character will be Faye. The gameplay is set to differ from the Norse God of War games with more focus on action. Current plan is that the game will be revealed this year and probably released by the first half of 2027. Obviously, delays could happen as well. For what I know and from what I've understood, people were actually preferring for completely unrelated settings, something completely new. Just to read a few comments here. Personally, would have preferred a Freya prequel game. I think there's too much of her story and about the veneer that hasn't been talked about. Surprised it's not Freya, but it's Faye. Could be interesting, especially if they bring back Deborah and Wall. We have someone here saying, I have zero interest in Faye as a character, but Cory usually makes great games. I trust him, so it's a mixed feeling. Yeah, that's just the thing. People don't really care about a character. It's like when we played The Last of Us Part 2, we ended up playing as Abby like throughout the half of the whole game. That left a bad taste in people's experience. We feel like we've explored enough about Faye. You know, some stories are meant to be left as a mystery in order for a franchise to develop a deep and enriched lore. Some stories do not need to be explained. It needs to be there so we can speculate, we can draw lines, we could, you know, make a huge story out of it. But at this point, at the same time, it will be interesting, I'll be honest, you know, if you could make a game where we could go back in a prequel, obviously in a time before Kratos met Faye. So probably Atreus wasn't born yet, we're not sure, but this was a time when she was a warrior. This was a time when she wielded the Leviathan axe, because from what I remember, she was the owner of the axe before she gave it over to Kratos, and also she fought Thor. If you remember from God of War Ragnarok, there was a frozen lightning way before Kratos fought with Thor. Having an idea of what it feels like to be a giant, because we know she's a giant, right? And obviously she's gonna have super strength and all that kind of stuff. Maybe we explore the side of the giants, the stories of the giants, the untold story of Jotunheim. You know, every time it's always been about Kratos and etc. Maybe they want to step out to give a new light to something totally new. You know, I don't make video games. I'm not a storyteller, but so obviously that's why people are looking at Cory Barlog like, you know what, we actually trust this guy and he has delivered bangers. Santa Monica is known for God of War games. That's their bread and butter. They do that in their sleep. But I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't care about the character Faye. I'll be honest. So just to make it simple, Atreus was introduced to us back in 2018 God of War, and then we finally got to play as Atreus in God of War Ragnarok. You would think it would make sense to have the next game or the sequel be an Atreus game where Atreus goes on his adventure. God of War, the saga of Loki, where he travels to all the realms or whatever. Look, I'm just pitching on what I think or what I thought Cory Barlog might have been working on, but it seems like that's not the case. And we've had people say also that they would have preferred a Freya game because they're used to Freya. We've known more about Freya. Freya is much of an interesting character than Faye. But with that being said, also, you know, like I've always said, you can never know, right? So if they're gonna give us Faye, most likely it's gonna be events that happened, you know, before Ragnarok. So we're gonna have the fights and the wars that happened between, you know, Asgard and the giants, and you know, when Thor went and slayed all the giants. Basically, we're gonna see a lot of those. But anyways, with that being said, I would like to know what your thoughts are on this matter. Let me know in the comment section below what you think. Smash the like button, and I'm gonna catch you guys in my next one. We out.